Hello, I'm here to do a quick review of my new book, The Servanthood of Christ. This book is especially targeted to those who've been called to be pastors, but truthfully, everything covered in here is equally applicable to any ministry worker, and actually, most are universal concepts that apply to anyone living the Christian life. Here's a little bonus right up front. This is a poem my father wrote while he was pastoring out in Missouri during the 1960s. I added this in just to be a blessing. I love it, and I think you will too. There once was Elijah, man of God, most fiery prophet to tread earth's sod. Then bang, the fire fell, the demons shook in the pit of hell. So where's the one who like Elijah was, who's unafraid to preach God's cause, who will preach and pray and shout until this whole world turns inside out? Whatever man may say or think, we have a God alive today. You can see the topics covered with a quick glance at the table of contents. I'll talk real quick about some key chapters. Chapter 1 starts out with counting the cost. It urges the reader to dispel all the romantic views of being a pastor or ministry leader, because what it's really about is a ton of hard work and some of the greatest challenges you will ever face in your life. The hardest work I ever did was working for a local farmer as a young man, following the tractor through the field, throwing hay bales into his wagon. That is tough work, but it didn't hold a candle to what I was going to be faced with years later when I became a pastor. Chapter 2 gets into the heart of the book, the concept of servanthood as exemplified by Jesus Christ. We are, first and foremost, servants, and we need to keep in mind that we are the tool, not the carpenter's hand. We're here to serve, whether we are pastor or a Christian in the pew. Chapters 3 and 4 will be a special blessing to folks who have been in the ministry for 30, 40, 50 years. 3 relates the true story of the life of a farm boy from rural Maine who's drafted during Korea, and how God uses that to get him saved. And it follows him as he later surrenders to preach and begins a 50-year ministry. Again, folks who have been in the work for a while will recognize some of the challenges he met along the way. Chapter 4 relates some of the fruit of this country preacher's ministry around the country, fruit which he never knew about until he got to heaven. It demonstrates the importance of being faithful and the incredible things that God can do with one faithful Christian. This book is primarily targeted at an audience who's just entering the ministry, but these 2 chapters, 3 and 4, are a huge blessing for those who've been in it for a while, especially if they have struggled with discouragement. After that, we get into some of the ingredients that make the soup. For the sake of time, I won't detail all of these chapters, but you can see from the table of contents what they're about. We have prayer, study, your family. Your family has more needs, by the way, than just financial needs, needs that you will need to take care of. A balanced diet that has nothing to do with physical food, but rather spiritual food, what you're taking in and what you're giving out, especially if you're preaching from the pulpit. Numbers. How to have God's blessing, straight from Isaiah chapter 58. Toxic masculinity. That's a little tongue-in-cheek because masculinity is not toxic. In fact, it's something that we need in our churches, and we need in our church leaders. To judge or not to judge. Probably everyone listening to this has had that thrown at them from time to time, and well, God commands us to judge, and this chapter looks at the specifics of passages where he says not to judge and where he says to judge, and kind of sorts that out for us. How you dress, especially if you're preaching, will preach louder than your words. Pragmatism or principle, cages of our own making, describes ways that we cripple ourselves and set ourselves up to be unable to follow God's calling. Some of the stumbling stones that are thrown in our way that we should try to avoid. Gossip, of course, is never gossip in churches. Discipline. This isn't punishment. This is discipline as in training, and it focuses on self-discipline. What's in your garden? What are you growing? What's in your life? And it talks about the importance of gardens. And it explains why I think every Bible college that is preparing people for the pastorate should have at least one semester of gardening, where students get their hands dirty and actually grow a garden. And by doing so, I believe they will understand parts of the Bible, especially parables of Jesus and some of the sermons of Jesus, a lot better. Be the example. Maintaining the integrity of the pulpit. If you're a pastor, you're going to find that there are many vultures circling around over your pulpit who want to have that pulpit to address the crowd. And you need to use some discernment there. Be consistent. It's about the church. You are accountable. That's a very important chapter there, and it takes a look at Ezekiel chapter 9 and talks about God's judgment, how God's judgment, when we see it, God's judgment on his people in the past, it doesn't start with the people in the pew. It starts with the leaders, and then he works his way down, and after he judges his people, then he judges the world. That's a very valuable chapter right there, to kind of put some things in perspective. And you, if you are a pastor, God holds you accountable for what's done at the church. Our purpose, talking about our purpose in life, using some words from Scripture from King Solomon. 12 things church members wish pastors understood, and then 12 things pastors wish church members understood, and then finally the day of the country church. I wind up with something that is a personal burden of mine, country churches. It talks about the importance of churches in rural areas and the need to hold up rural ministry as a fruitful ministry for young preachers. The country church in our nation is the canary in the coal mine when it comes to the health and future of Christianity in America, and right now, country churches are shuttering at a breathtaking rate. That's the book. It's available in paperback and hardcover. I believe you'll find it to be a blessing no matter where you are in the Christian life, but it'll be a special help for those who are entering ministry. In the description for this video, I'll add links to places where you can get a copy.